Hey there, and welcome to Three of Swords Gaming. So I want to take just a minute, and truly just a minute. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I did want to examine what we think of what lies within and how it turned out versus maybe expectations that people had, or expectations that they shouldn't have had. So let's get right into it. What did we actually get? Well, let's take a look at the story. With my new job, that being an office job, a job where I sit at a computer for a better part of the day, um, had an opportunity to hop on the subreddit briefly today and kind of take a look at what people were saying. I'm not a big fan of subreddit. I only read a few little things, but I did see that people in general seem to be a little bit unhappy with the story, which is really interesting to me because generally I tend to be like really on kind of on one side of things where I'm saying, hey, the story was absolute garbage, and most folks like, it was all right, like I didn't mind it. In this case, I thought that it wasn't the worst thing they'd ever done, and people are acting like it was, and I'm really surprised by that. There was a lot of things that maybe people don't like that I thought should have been expected in the first place. Um, the fact that it's all about the commander being introspective and dealing with like inner demons as he or it or whatever deals with like these outer demons, that was to be predicted. We already knew that was coming from the first half of the whole Gyala Delves thing, with the Oni demons and all that. The fact that it ended up the same way like was not a shock to me. I don't know why that was surprising. The fact that Gorik and Taimi and Rama and Man and all this, like none of that should have surprised anyone. They should have seen that coming from a million miles away. So if they're disappointed by it now, they allowed themselves to be disappointed by not anticipating what was very clearly coming. But some of the stuff that I did like, right? So this big bad was simply nothing more than this ancient demon bad, which is good. They need a lot more of that. What we don't need is the big bad with Shiro, which is what I was afraid it was going to be. Like, hey, let's go back and make Guild Wars 2 Guild Wars 1.2, which they've done way too much of. And they didn't do this in this case. And I was appreciative of that. I also like how the story gave us the opportunity to potentially go back and revisit some things that were kind of blown by, or the characters that were kind of just like killed and then completely forgotten, right? And I really appreciated that. I thought they did, given what the story was, right? And again, like nothing particularly good, but we've come to expect that now. We know it's not going to be good. Let's just hope it's not really bad. And within that box or within those constraints, to go back and revisit like Cinder, like I liked that. To go back and give a little bit more consideration to Blish, I like that, right? To kind of give more thought, and I wish it had been more developed. It was very very shallow, but to kind of go back and consider my Trin again, I enjoyed it. To keep this short, I thought that the story was not nearly as bad as some people think it was. I think it was par for the course. It was exactly what they set us up for in the first half, with what lies beneath. Not a disaster. Uh, that takes us to the meta event, which I kind of think is a disaster. So I don't think the meta for Gyala Delves, like the first half as it stands now, the part that came with what lies beneath, I don't think is really that bad at all. In fact, I think it's very farmable. I don't farm it because I just have other things going on. But I do think it's a very farmable meta event. I think it flows. It's got like the two lanes kind of running concurrently side by side, and converge on the boss. The bosses aren't super compelling, but that's fine. Like ultimately, it's not a bad meta. It's very farmable. The second half that they just gave us is like hop on turtle, which I get it. They want to make the turtle useful because they gave us the turtle in Night of Dragons, and then the turtle kind of wasn't useful for anything. It was kind of dumb. Two-person mount, that's great, but much like I've said this before. The turtle's a two-person mount with no real use. The skiff is a five-person mount with no real use except to go fishing. So they wanted to try and find a way to make the turtle useful, and the entire meta event is like hop on turtle, run over things, press one. And then the final encounter is like completely counterintuitive. Didn't make any sense to me at all. I don't know if it was a bug or if it's the way it's supposed to be. That throughout the entire meta, or that second half, you use your turtle and then you download these charges that you gather to like power things up. But then in the final encounter, I couldn't download from the turtle. I had to dismount my turtle, download the charges, get back on my turtle. So it didn't make any sense in relation to the rest of the meta. The meta was like so much like the encounter in the personal story, and whereas usually like the similarities help you, like one kind of sets up the other, or something within the story kind of sets you up for a fractal or something like that. That didn't seem to be the case with this meta. Like they were just kind of the same thing over again, and the meta did not feel good. Whereas the first half of Gyala Delves kind of does feel relatively good, and at least it's like loot heavy. The second half just doesn't feel good at all. And the loot is spread out all over the place. I don't hate it. I don't know that I would change it if I was ArenaNet, but I can see how for a lot of folks that doesn't necessarily feel good either, especially when they have this time window to go do the activities. So I'm not going to say anything about the activities. People seem to kind of like them. Maybe they're good. I haven't tried them. I don't know that I'm particularly interested in trying them. I don't know that I want to have to go through a meta event that I did not enjoy. Definitely didn't like my first time through it. And then have a 1 hour window after going through a meta event I didn't want to rush and try and get as many things done as possible. That 100% does not feel good. I get it. They've got away with that before, like Dragon Stand, where you have a limited window to get some events done. So I can see why they thought it was going to work, but it does not feel good on that map at all. I grabbed a few chests and logged off because I didn't enjoy the meta and I didn't feel like running around doing things. So I finished the meta event just so I could see what it was like, grabbed some chests, logged off. So a few other notes. These armor set they've introduced. So I appreciate the fact that they're giving another avenue for Ascended armor. I think that's great. I like that they added more armor skins. I think that's good. Personally, I think A, it is hideous. It is horribly ugly. B, it really, really looks like they're trying to rip off something between like Metroid and Halo. It's just so derivative of those two things that it's like borderline offensive. But that's not unusual in video games, so fine, whatever. And C, all three weights for an entire armor set are identical. And I know they've done this a couple times before, but this is like was really jarring for me because it's so very clearly like a heavy armor look, and yet all three weights are that. That it again begs the question: why can't I transmute across weight classes to get the look that I want? Oh, it might clip. A bunch of stuff clips already. Oh, the waist on heavy armor is going to look weird with light armor. It already does. So just allow me to do it. Because you're giving me like this light armor that's like super heavy Metroid Samus Prime nonsense. So at least allow my warrior to wear like crazy, lingerie looking light armor. Just give that to me. It's the least you can do. I paid a lot of money into this game over the last almost 11 years now. Finally, to wrap it up, there was one thing that I wasn't necessarily expecting. In fact, I wasn't expecting at all. I didn't log in thinking it was going to happen. But it is notable that it wasn't there, and that's the fractal. Like so 0 fractals for Ended Dragons. I guess that's the situation. Because they did give us like a little spoiler that apparently this next mini expansion is coming much sooner than I certainly thought it was going to come. I thought we were looking at least like November, December, if not next calendar year, sometime in 2024, early 2024. But I thought we were a ways away. Did not expect it to come summer of 2023. I do expect it late summer. I'm thinking like August, maybe around like anniversary. But when is that fractal? So I don't think we're getting a fractal with Ended Dragons. And I think that's a letdown. I think when they said these are the things that will come with a mini expansion, the least they could have done is given us one fractal for Ended Dragons to kind of give us an idea that that they're serious about what's going to be coming in future expansions. And apparently they didn't do that. So now, I mean, we've gotten so little. Like fractals have been such nonsense for like 4 or 5 years now that it shouldn't surprise anyone. But it was notable, I guess is the word I want to use, that there was no fractal for Ended Dragons. So whatever, man. Anyway, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna try and keep it as short as I can. Looks like we're gonna come in under 10 minutes. And I will be returning to my Guild Wars 2 personal story playthrough here probably tomorrow or the next day. So we'll keep moving along with that. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I appreciate your time. Have a good one.